After banning education for women, Taliban is back with another regressive order in Afghanistan and, as always, targeting women. If women are working even with NGOs now, they will have to head back to work. NGOs have been asked not to employ women anymore. It has led to global outrage. People are speaking against it. But remember, for even to protest on the streets of Afghanistan right now, it's absolutely difficult and even life-threatening in some cases. But joining me now are two brave Afghan women. They're not in their country, in their motherland right now. They had to flee and leave and are living in different parts of the world, undisclosed locations, but nevertheless are willing to speak up about what's unfolding. I'm joined by Sudaba Bayani, who's a civil engineer and a women's rights activist. Wazma Ayubi is an entrepreneur, also a women's rights activist. In fact, Wazma has been seen at so many of events, sports events, in signifying the culture, tradition, the color that Afghanistan truly represents, not what Taliban wants it to be represented as. Wazma, I want to then start with you. When you see what Afghanistan is becoming now, one by one, women are being told they cannot work, cannot study. What is it that you're feeling? Is it helplessness? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it a mix of all? Because for Afghan women, this is going to be life-changing.
I'm sad, angry, heartbroken. It's a mix of emotions all at the same time. My heart just goes out for the for the women that are currently in Afghanistan and going through these hard situations, and actually the brave women of Afghanistan that despite the threats and everything, they've taken to the streets and they're fighting, they're marching for their rights. It's a very sad and heartbreaking situation, and events that are happening in my country at the moment, to be honest.
Sudaba, as I introduce you, Sudaba Bayani is a civil engineer. Sudaba, the girls now or the generation after will not even have that designation to be introduced. How do you become a civil engineer when you can't even get yourself educated in Afghanistan? And what does that mean for a whole generation of such bright, intelligent women in Afghanistan, in your homeland? What are you hearing? What are the stories that are coming out from Afghanistan that you can tell us about?
So we heard the news, the announcement first. It was the night when girls were studying for their finals. They were in the end of their semester. It's end of the year in Afghanistan, and they were about to finish their last semester. They were in the middle of their finals that this happened, and they banned them from attending universities anymore. They were confirming this to me. They sent that announcement to me to confirm if that's true or not, if they can still study for tomorrow's exam or they can stop now. So it was really so heartbreaking for me when I hear that news. We were expecting this because when they banned high schools, there will be no other females graduate to attend universities. We were thinking that this ban may implement on them, but they did this to the girls who were in the middle of their exams and were about to graduate. So it's really disturbing, and all the women who are out there asking for their rights to education, they are all full of anger, full of emotions, and they can't control themselves to stay at homes and bear all these things all alone with themselves.
Well, you're such a powerful face and voice right now. You were able to also head back to the nation some time ago. What is it that the world can do listening to you right now? What can we do here? That, you know, we must ensure that the Taliban cannot get away with such decisions. These are brutal because this is going to have consequences later.
Yeah, well, women's rights are human rights. And
yes, so Daba, let Wazma answer that and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Yes, Wazma, go ahead.
Well, to be honest, this era is called the era of women in the rest of the world, but in my country, women are banned from going to school, women are banned from going to universities, banned from going to parks, banned from going to public hammams, banned from listening to music, banned now from even going to work. I mean, what is the world waiting for? Yes. It's been 1.5 years since the Taliban are in power in Afghanistan, and they've done everything in their power to remove, to completely erase women from public life. the world can do more. The world can do better. There needs to be um, um, political pressure. There needs to be travel bans. There needs to be sanctions on so many things on the current government, on Taliban. They can't just get away with this. I think everybody needs to come together. There needs to be a unified, stand against these actions of the Taliban. A lot of Afghan women and Afghans all around the world, and even within the country, we're standing up, but it's not enough. I mean, there are still deals going on behind the curtains with the Taliban, which infuriates us. Why is it happening? Like, the world doesn't care about the Afghan women anymore. I mean, I know there has been so many things going on with if you see the situation in Ukraine and other places, that the world completely forgot about Afghanistan. And then us Afghans, we knew this was going to happen. It's not that we didn't know it was going to happen. It was going to come to this, but we just had that hope, and now those hopes are shattered as well. So the world needs to put, like, more political pressure on Taliban, and there needs to be a very strong stand against this.
So if there was any doubt at all, it's being made very clear by the Taliban that they are not any different, this Taliban 2.0. It could actually be just much more worse. So Daba, Afghanistan built or rebuilt so much in 20 years. Are we looking at a complete breakdown? Because I shudder to think what's happening to women who may not have a male guardian, single mothers or orphaned children, or anyone who just wants to head out to do basic duties, basic activities that all of us here may just take for granted. And I cannot imagine also what that society could be turning back to if it's not intervened right away. What do you think the world can do, must do, or react in a way?
So we were the first generation who were born after the 9/11 incidents, and we went to high schools, we studied, got graduated, and we started working and everything. So for us, it was a shatter for our dreams. We lost everything in just a blink, and I can't just express what it was for me and for the generation that we are. I was hoping so much. I am a civil engineer. I was meant to be in a construction field right now. I must build my country. I was not supposed to sit here and tell the world how disgusting the situation is, how hateful it is, how are we just getting erased from society at all. I was not supposed to do this. I was supposed to be somewhere else. And just like me, there are so many other girls who are deprived of working, education, going out and everything. We were not meant to be like this on the streets and asking for our basic human rights. We were supposed to be on our fields and working and rebuilding our country. They are completely destroying our country, not only this generation, everything that was built in the past 20 years.
That's true. It's not only just destroying what could have been rebuilt, and what repercussions will be for the next generation. Basma, I've been speaking to so many Afghan nationals, specifically those who have fled in the recent times since the Taliban took over. And all I see is on my social media flooded with pictures, photographs, angry reactions, disheartened Afghans, because they just do not know what to do, but all they can do is they're sharing these pictures. Do you think, what sort of photographs or videos are coming out? Do tell us something that we may not be able to realize is unfolding there in the country, because Taliban says we'll build a new university, we'll have specifically for women, but now that we know it, it's not going to happen.
Well, I'm so sorry. Taliban 2.0 is just a myth. I think they're worse than the previous regime. They all these excuses, all they've been giving is like excuses about syllabus, about like classes not being separated, boys and girls studying together. But I'm so sorry, this is not true. We've always had, like, separate classes for girls and boys, and the syllabus was always Islamic. I'm not sure what they mean by that, and they had that excuse for schools. We were protesting against that. We were like raising our voice against that, but the world did not support us. And now look, they have banned universities, and they've issued an order for the female NGO workers not to be able to go and work. Well, females weren't working at the government institutions at all. All we see is these images, these horrible images of, like, Afghan students, female university students going to universities, and then these Taliban harassing them, beating them, and like throwing water at them, and then these other male university students that are refusing to give their exams because their sisters were not allowed to, give exams, and they were banned from universities. So it's very sad. It's horrible, and I think we shouldn't believe them. There needs to be a concrete action. There needs to be concrete steps to be taken against the current regime. I will tell you a recent incident. I was in Afghanistan about a week back because my mother was unwell, and I went. This time around, I was very scared, so I was covering my face and I was covering my whole head because the situation was very, very intense in Kabul. You are in your own city, like, you're in your own home, and
compare
if you're
the
outside
difference,
and you're a woman,
compare the difference of how it was earlier and now.
there is
How is Kabul right now? What sort of difference did you see in a city so vibrant?
Well, the city is sad. You see very less women nowadays. My cousins and them, they go to, there were some courses, private tuitions that they would go to because their schools are closed and they cannot go to school. So my cousins would come every day, like, sad and crying and saying that, the Taliban came to those courses and told them, like, to wear proper hijab, and then they would tell them to learn certain stuff, and tell their teachers not to teach them certain things, and they would just come and harass them. Those are actually harassments, like, And the other apparent thing that I noticed, which I didn't notice in my previous trip, but I did notice it on this trip, was that inside the city, inside Kabul itself, I know they've said that women are not allowed to travel certain kilometers without a mahram, which is male chaperone. But we were stopped and harassed at certain, checkposts, and my brother was asked whether, who I was to him and how I was related to him, when he would say, she's my sister, and they would just harass and ask for, Tazkiras. Tazkira is our national ID, and for other things, and they would behave very, very, very rudely. There were men at checkposts that apparently they did not even know how city people live, how urban people live. They would just look at you a certain way. At the airport, I noticed a lot of people being turned away because they did not have a mahram, and the security was like, I don't know, there was a chaos, like you could feel it. And just when I came back, I heard the news of universities being banned, and then this other issue of women not being able to go to work.
I realize, Lazma, you're becoming teary-eyed as well. Is it watching a city literally turned to ruins in so many ways that this is not what you would have wanted your own motherland to become?
I'm sorry, Pooja, I can't hear you anymore.
For you to watch your city become what it is, and to see so much fear, because I saw there was this hunch in your voice that it would make anyone feel sad if you return to your own city, watching it like that.
Yes, I mean, it was very sad because when my brother was asked for the national ID, and when I told them that I do hold a foreign passport, so even if I give you my passport, you won't be able to read it, and I don't have my Tazkira at my hand, it hurt a lot, and I cried that day, and I keep, when I remember that day, it hurts me so much that in my own city, in my own country, that man called me an agent. He said, you're just an intelligence worker, you're just an agent, this is not your country. Just because I have a foreign passport, I do have an Afghan passport, but at that time I did not have it to show it to him. And to be treated like that, just because I am a woman, and just because it's just sad. It's very sad, and I did have that privilege. I do have the privilege. I had the privilege of coming
Yes.
out of Afghanistan and being able to come out. But what about the girls and the women that still live there and don't have an option to go out or do anything? What about them? They're just sitting at home, and now they don't have anything else to do. This is not about like, you know, education anymore. This is gender apartheid. This is a deficit in our
life.
economy.
This is about
there are
life.
women that don't have
Yes.
male.
This is also about a society, and I think it's very brave of you, Wazma, and also Sudaba, for even speaking up, because the world needs to know what's happening. Sudaba, do you think the hope right now for Afghanistan and for Afghan women specifically are the young men? The visuals of these young male students walking out, clear visuals of them, of Taliban shooting at them, beating them up because they choose not to sit for the examination. Do you think this time, this generation of men want to make it very clear that they stand with the women and their life and rights?
Unfortunately, no. I don't see any hopes or any change anymore. It's been more than 1 year. If they wanted to change or improve anything, they would have reopened girls' school. They would have stopped implementing so many bans on girls and women. They are not doing anything to make the situation better. The NGOs that were working in Afghanistan, they are lots of them are the aid distributors, and the women that were working on those NGOs were the ones who assisted people on distributing the aids, because the Taliban don't allow widows and orphans without their male companions in the fields where these aids are getting distributed. So there has to be some women assistance with them to help them. And besides that, some of my colleagues, like some of the architects, work in some international NGOs that were still working in Afghanistan. But yesterday they had a notice that you guys are no longer allowed to come to work, and please don't come to office. The Taliban has warned us that they will revoke our working license if we allow any women anymore in the offices. So
Sudaba, are there many women who work in the NGOs or in that sector in Afghanistan?
Yeah, there were so many of the people who, like when the collapse happened, not so many of the women and girls were able to leave the country.
Yes.
Those who were working in those NGOs. So the NGOs were still running and they were still working there. But unfortunately now they are banned from working there as well.
And some of the final words that I want to have from this discussion, Wazma, let's start with you, because you're starting to also make a mark with how the world is listening. There are so many Afghans outside who are speaking. This could be actually the last days that we see of something coming out of Afghanistan. The moment it's happening, we see the visuals are getting more filtered. It's more difficult for people to speak up. I shudder to think what the next generation has in store, because the impact of education, of no job, will be on women who cannot even venture out, and they will be solely dependent. And what else do you call them apart from a word like barbarian, or taking Afghanistan back to dark ages?
Yes, they're taking back Afghanistan to medieval ages. Let me tell you something. Afghanistan is already going through the worst humanitarian crisis, and the world knows that. Everybody knows that. There are these women. Afghanistan has been in conflict, you know, at war for the past 40 years, and there are women that don't have any male family members, so they're the sole winners of their own family. With this decision and with so many restrictions on women, how are those women going to feed their children? What's their plan? What's the way out? How are they going to feed these people? I know there's aid going to Afghanistan, and this aid needs to continue, and it's because it's through the UN, and the UN needs to make sure that, you know, the Taliban do not have access to this aid, because the poor people of Afghanistan deserves this. But now that they've stopped women from working, who's going to distribute this aid? Again, the male, the Taliban. What will happen to the future? And if there are no universities, and if there is no education for girls, what are they going to do? We need female doctors.
What would you want to say to girls who were aiming to become civil engineers in Afghanistan, from where you graduated, you managed to start working? Tomorrow there could be no civil engineer Afghan girl.
Unfortunately, yes. We were like the girls who graduated after us was the last generation who graduated from Kabul Polytechnic University. It was the recent years that the number of engineers was increasing in these universities. The number of women in STEM were increasing in Afghanistan, but unfortunately now they have made that impossible as well. There will be no graduates anymore, and those girls, they are tearing apart. They are crying every day. They are sending me messages, and I can't tell you how I feel when I read those things, and how I wish that there would be something.
Can you tell me about some of the
them.
messages, Sudaba? What kind of messages, of course, without revealing details, but what kind of messages are reaching you and many others?
They're just, they even hate that they are a woman, and they even share disgust of why they have been burned in Afghanistan. Every one of them. Some of them even wrote that the girls who are living outside Afghanistan, you guys are so lucky that you are getting the opportunity to study. Some of them even wrote that you guys are so lucky to have a chance to go to a park. You can have a walk anytime you want. To see this, it's really hurting that a person on this earth in this era would wish that she could go out on a walk to a simple park.
You know, walking to a park with your family, getting education, just going about living life that we take for so granted is currently so difficult in Afghanistan. Wazma Ayubi, Sudaba Bayani, I appreciate both of you brave women for speaking up. Your stories and that of many others from Afghanistan that's not being able to reach out to the world. I hope the world is listening, and thank you for speaking to India today. We wish the very best for Afghan women, and really here on India Today, we'll continue to speak up for them. Thank you. Take care. All the best.